Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we're going to talk about accents and pronunciation, and specifically the topic of accent reduction. In today's video, a friend of mine whose name is Rod is going to talk about accent reduction. Accent reduction is a process of reducing your accent in a second language, and the result is a kind of pronunciation or accent that's easier to understand, that sounds maybe near native. So accent reduction is one goal that some people will choose, but other people will work on their pronunciation in a different way. And it's totally up to you. There is no right or wrong answer. Rod is going to talk about what accent reduction is. He has a master's degree and focused specifically on accent reduction for his master's. So he knows a lot about this topic. And then he's going to give some specific tips. So stay until the end of the video and then let me know in the comments below what you think. Hi everyone, welcome to my first interview on my channel, and today I'm joined by Rod. Rod has become a friend of mine on YouTube and or online, and he's an English teacher in Brazil, and we have a few things in common. Many of you know that I'm married to a Brazilian and I've learned Portuguese, and of course Rod and I are also both English teachers. And I invited Rod to join me today because Rod is a bit of an expert in something that is a really important topic for English learners to know about. The topic is accent reduction. Rod's channel on YouTube is called Rod, the Brazilian English Teacher. And Rod, first, I would love for you to tell us more about your English learning journey.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. And yes, we became friends and it was amazing. I love your channel and the things you do. Well, my English learning journey became when I was 8 years old. It's funny because I saw Madonna on TV and everybody knows who Madonna is. And I saw her singing and jumping on the stage. I was 7 years old and I felt really excited when I saw her singing, and I said, I want to learn what she is talking about. And then I turned to my father and I said, I want to go to school to learn English. And the next day, as I live in a very small town in an inner state of Sao Paulo, my father said, okay, I'm going to see about putting you in a school to study English. And then he signed me up to the school the next day. And I fell in love with the English language, and here I am, you know.
That's great. And how many years have you been teaching English?
25 years.
Wow, that's great. I've been teaching for about 25 years too, so about
Yeah.
the same amount of time. That's great.
I started teaching, I was 17, but I study English every day. I study English every day. Actually, my principal invited me to go teach with her, you know, when I finished the course. She said, I want you to teach with me. I said, I'm not able to teach. She said, you are. You are very good. And then she invited me to teach with her. And we worked together for 10 years. And then I opened my own school, and I am working with my wife right now.
That's great. Well, and you know, I believe that non-native speakers of English make excellent teachers because non-native speakers of English have been through the process of learning the language and they understand it in a way that native speakers of English don't understand.
Yeah.
So that's great. So
yeah, because we know the difficulties that they have, you know, so you know exactly what they go through, you know. Maybe that's
right.
why.
Yeah, and you know, I think also that non-native speakers of English can provide an excellent example or role model for learners of English.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Rod, can you tell us what accent reduction is?
Well, accent reduction can be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to put accent reduction in my perspective. When I started learning English when I was 8 years old, as I just said, there was no way to practice. We only had movies. with that big tapes, big black tapes that we would rent from Blockbuster or whatever.
Mhm.
And we didn't have the advent of internet. Like in 4 seconds, you have the answer that you need.
Mhm.
So we would practice with listening to music, recording those songs that you like, and listen. And at that time, we called it repetition, and
Mhm.
suddenly it changed to shadowing. And then, Jenna, when I had the chance to take my master's degree, I took my master's degree in Spain. I chose to work with accent reduction in the sense of clearing the pronunciation of the students, because I think accent is part of you.
Mhm.
And that's why we can clear 100% of the accent of a language. It's not possible to be 100% American sounding or
Mhm.
British sounding.
Mhm.
So it's very important. The idea that I had was to make the English pronunciation of the students very clear.
Mhm.
That's how I tackled, accent reduction to teach people, and it gives great results.
Mhm.
The English of the people who study with me.
Can you tell us, how does accent reduction work? How exactly can someone do accent reduction?
Well, accent reduction is a lot of exercises. With a lot of exercises, the student can clean it up and say like the proper way to the word. Let me see a word that I can tell you, like bit and beach. See the relaxed sound and the shorter sound.
For example, if one of my students wants to work on accent reduction, like what kind of exercises would he or she do? Like, can you explain
Mhm.
sort of like, let's say that that student has 30 minutes, like what kinds of things exactly would they do?
Shadowing is the first one. Shadowing is trying to repeat exactly how the teacher, how Miss Jana is saying.
Mhm.
If you say, like, I can give you the example with Madonna, for example, because Madonna's from Detroit, and people from Detroit say Madonna with the
Mhm.
A open, so,
Mhm. Mhm.
and people in LA, like where you are now, they say Madonna,
Mhm.
which is closer. So you have to choose the way you want to speak, because once I was talking, I'm not bragging or anything, but it's a funny story. Once I was talking to an American person, and the person asked me, "Are you from the Midwest?" I said, "No, I'm a Brazilian."
Uh-huh.
"Why?" "Because you speak like people who live in Detroit."
Uh,
And then I did the connections, because I used to watch into Madonna's interviews, and I used to repeat exactly the way she was repeating the words. And then
mhm.
I explained the person, and the person told me, "Oh, that's why," So accent reduction, you have to work with shadowing, which was one of the most important things, and also to relax your muscles, because uh, English for me is almost like singing when you're talking, and I think that rhythm and intonation are the most important things when you speak English. Like
Mhm.
a government bureaucracy, you have to work the word bureaucracy to go right. So English is almost like singing, as I like to say. So you have to work rhythm and intonation, in my humble opinion,
Mhm.
and a lot of shadowing.
So with shadowing, would a student take like a sentence that the teacher says and then just repeat that sentence after? Or is it just like words, or could it be either one? If they listen to something longer, can they like pause it and then repeat every
Mhm.
time?
Yeah, we can do it with words, and we can do it with longer sentences.
Mhm.
So, what you have to do is just to relax your mind and just repeat what you listen. I'm gonna give you an example. We're gonna repeat the word bad, the word bad.
Mhm.
One is being not a good person, and the other one is the place where you sleep. We don't have this kind of way in Portuguese. The
Mhm.
bad adjective,
Mm-hmm.
a in Portuguese. So it's very difficult sometimes to make the student to understand that he has to open his mouth
Mm-hmm.
and do an a mouth and say an a sound bad. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of exercises like repeating. It's much easier to make them used to the sound than making them learning the technical way to do so, if you know
Mm-hmm.
what I
Mm-hmm.
mean.
Right, that makes sense. Do you recommend accent reduction for all English learners?
Well, it's up to you. It's up to the student. Because for me, let me put you something very clear here. Accent for me means identity.
Mm-hmm.
That's why also my channel has the name Rod, the Brazilian English teacher. You know, we shouldn't give up our accent because it's beautiful, it's charming. But accent reduction, I really recommend because it makes your life much easier. Because once your English is clearer, the more clearer, the better. The more people will understand you without any communication noise. You will feel confident and speak more. What I want students and the people who are watching us to pay attention is never be afraid of making mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and um, learn from them. And if you find someone who corrects you when you don't want to be corrected, please turn your back and find somebody else, because you'll find a lot of nice people who will be friendly to you and help you and talk to you. And one thing you guys have to do, everybody has to do, is practice, 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 because English is a lifelong journey.
Mm-hmm.
Never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Mostly when it's a second language or as a foreign language.
I agree with you on that. It's definitely a lifelong process and learning any language is a lifelong process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mistakes are part of the process, right? We learn
Yeah.
from our mistakes, and
Yeah.
learning a language is so hard. So making
Yeah.
mistakes is natural, right? And we have to
Yeah.
be patient and kind with ourselves and tell
I
ourselves that
agree.
it's okay
I
to make
agree
mistakes.
totally.
Mhm.
Yes.
Thank you so much to Rod for joining me today and talking about accent reduction. And I want to let everyone know that I will include a link down below in the description box to Rod's channel and to a couple of videos on his channel that I would love for you guys to check out. And if you have any questions about accent reduction or about learning pronunciation, feel free to ask in the comments below, and Rod and I will be happy to answer them. Thank you so much. And
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
yeah, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, Rod. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. And we will see you again soon.
Thank you. I hope so. Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. See you soon.